Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I really
Sure,
appreciate it.
sure.
And everybody I have been talking to going back our past 40 years says, oh, we loved Rabbi Zimmerman. So very, very fond memories are being evoked from you. So
Nice.
I wish I had been there when you were our rabbi, but
How big is the congregation these days? What's going on with it?
well, I think when you were there, we were in the old Frank's Market. We're
Yep,
at
yep.
2333 Main Street. Okay. And then we purchased the old KFC Knights of Columbus building on Hebron Avenue, 1079 Hebron Avenue. And then a few years after that, maybe about 10 years later, we built a new sanctuary and expanded so that there were classrooms and just kind of reconfigured things. So that was kind of the changes. And I'm not sure of the exact number of families. I know it's been in flux. I think at one time there were as many as 260 families. I think we're down a little bit from that, but we're
Nice.
still going strong. But
Good. And who's your rabbi now? Is there?
we actually have a female rabbi, Rabbi Carrie Tooling. So she's been with us for, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years. So yeah,
Nice.
we are back to having a female rabbi. I think in the interim, we had some men, but now we are back to a woman. So
Great. Great.
yeah. So I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you and Congregation Kol Haverim came together at the very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had I had finished 2 years of HUC and took a sabbatical because I got married in 1984. And my husband was in the middle of his master's degree in urban and environmental policy at Tufts. And so I took a year off and I worked for the UAHC at the time, or the URJ, and social justice. And I had a small youth group from a Malden community because we lived in Boston, of course, Tufts, Somerville area.
Mhm.
And I went thinking I was going to have these two jobs and I was going to have to figure out something else because it wasn't enough money. And then in the late summer, I got a call from HUC. I think it must have been HUC, because didn't you have to apply for rabbis through HUC, not the URJ? And they said, there's this small new congregation, they need a rabbi, perfect match, go for it. And I was like, that sounds great.
Uh,
Um, so 2 times a month for that first year, I went up and it was a student pulpit, but I wasn't actually enrolled in school, but everyone else had their student pulpit. So they kind of extended the requirements because I was, still connected to AGC, even though I took a year sabbatical. And so they let me go and do it. And so 2 times a month, I drove up on a Friday morning and were there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and drove back Sunday late afternoon after religious school.
okay.
And I
And
think there were like 6 B'nai Mitzvah students, so I would teach them. Somebody else was like doing their Torah portions and Haftorah portions, but I did all the prayers with them.
mhm.
So they worked with me in all
Mhm.
the prayers.
Wow. And were you staying over at different congregants' homes during those
I
weekends?
I was.
Okay.
Now you're gonna tax my memory if I
That's okay.
I don't remember their names,
No worries. I was
yeah,
just,
but I stayed at congregants' houses, and there was a sort of couple where he was older than she, and they had schnauzers, and they hosted me a lot because they had sort of an open bedroom. They didn't have any kids. I don't remember.
yeah.
And then there was a couple where they like their kids were like they were empty nesters for the most
Mhm.
part, so they had extra rooms. So I stayed with kind of primarily those two families,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, and so I did Friday night services, and then we had 6 Saturday morning services for the B'nai Mitzvah through the year. And I would do classes, and I would meet with the students one-on-one. And yeah, we had a lot of like Saturday night classes and things like that people.
Wow. Wow. Very good.
And then I taught religious school.
So you did it all.
Kind of did it all. It was good. It was good. It was a good practice.
So what were your impressions of this band of new people forming a congregation?
Yeah, I basically used to say that there are 2 car seats in every car, and instead of a chicken in every pot. Like, it was such an expanding community because all these young people were having kids, and so it was just like tons of kids everywhere.
Hmm.
And to me, that's my memory of just the Jewish community. It became this bedroom community for the insurance company jobs and all of that. So, people really flocked to young families flocked to
Yeah.
Glastonbury, and so it was very fun. And there was sort of, like in every congregation, the young and the old, a little bit of a rift. The old did all the work.
Mhm.
And the young kind of wanted it a bit different. But they would always say about me, she might start the service late, but she always ends on time. Because I didn't always start on time, but I ended on time.
That's funny. That's funny. And I mean, I've just been hearing the stories about this warehouse space and that was Frank's supermarket and
The freezer section.
the freezer. Yeah, I'm just but it sounds like they took about 3 weeks and they put in carpeting and
Yeah,
painting and
yeah,
stuff. So
it worked. It
it
worked.
worked.
And the kids did, model Seder, and we just, we did what every religious school does with the kids. So it was very fun. I have a number of pictures somewhere. I've come across them every once in a while of Glastonbury, and so it was very fun.
Yeah.
It was a very forgiving community because I didn't know what I was doing, and we kind of learned together, and it was fun to just have these B'nai Mitzvah like breathe life into so much of the community. So
Mhm.
I got close to those kids.
That's great. That's great. And so I was trying to track down where the prayer books came from, and
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I'm
So
assuming they were donated.
who was the woman who kind of started it? What was her name?
So there's a few women. One was
Yeah,
Elaine Schwartz.
Elaine Schwartz.
Okay, yeah.
Elaine, and his name, he was the cantor.
Ed Schwartz or
Ed, yeah.
oh, okay.
Ed would sing with me.
Oh.
Um, because I don't sing.
And I know I'm assuming Ed was not trained as a cantor. He was no.
No, he just could he just knew the liturgy.
Okay.
He grew up Orthodox,
Okay.
and his voice was pleasant enough, you know.
Uh-huh.
And so that yeah, so Elaine Schwartz, and then there was this very large man who also like was very involved. I would stay at his house.
Yeah, I don't know what these people looked like too much. I've
Yeah,
just heard
just
the names,
yeah,
you
give me
know.
the names.
Yeah, there was Ron King, Ron Simon.
Ron Stein, yep, I think, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Manny Janeshel, who I just spoke with this afternoon.
yeah, Manny,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Simon and Elaine, and then there's like a whole thing between Elaine and one of the Rons. I don't know.
I don't,
You
yeah.
know, they were really I mean, they were emerging Jewish community, and they really got they bond together to get it up and running. And then once it's up and running, you start seeing the rifts that
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they made a religious school, and Elaine's kids were, I mean, Elaine didn't have any small kids.
Yeah.
Ron Simon did at the time. So his kids must be 36 now or something,
Yeah.
or more.
Yeah.
So yeah. It was fun. We, you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was not I didn't come in as I came in almost as like a, you know, a vendor, like you do this and you know, but they were in charge, which is an interesting model because most of the time, like where I am, I'm in charge, you know, and so
Right.
that was
Right.
kind of an interesting thing. Um, yeah, those were very fun days. They were really
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. That's great. And I guess that also the Hebrew school or the religious school was held in that very same
Yep.
space.
Yep.
Yeah.
We kind of said, I mean, there weren't enough kids in any class. There were a lot of car seats. I mean, there were kids who were really little. And so we had like a family service and they would come.
Yeah.
Um, but like religious school, they were too little for religious
Too
school.
little.
Most of the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that came later when
Yeah.
we moved to the other building because then it sounded like there were a ton of kids that then needed religious school. So
There were more children as part of the community than there were adults.
wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, that is what ratio you want. So there were definitely more kids, you know, than
Yeah.
adults at that time. And I think what else was really an interesting piece was they had me come. So then I went back to rabbinical school after the year my husband got his master's. And then
Okay.
I went back to New York instead of Boston to rabbinical school. And I came 3 times a month.
Okay.
And they wanted me to continue that, and I'm like, I can't do school. And you know, like
Right.
you need a full-time rabbi. And I think it was Ron King who was like really upset with me, but I was like, you guys need, you have a community that needs somebody who lives here and is here.
Yeah.
And that's when they hired
Rabbi Plout.
Rabbi Plout, right?
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
who I knew his mother, or because she got all rabbinical students in Jerusalem our apartments.
Oh.
So I knew him a bit, and there was a
Uh-huh.
connection between another friend of ours. And he was
Mhm.
there for a short time, I think. I don't know. How long was he there?
I think it was for a while. I don't know if it was 7 years, 5 years.
Oh,
It was for a
oh.
fair amount of time. The other person, and I don't know if your paths crossed, was and she was a cantor at the time, was Angela Warnock.
Oh.
So
Hmm.
maybe your paths did not cross, and then then she became a rabbi, and so yeah,
Ah.
but interesting. Wow. Anything else? This has been great.
Yeah, I think that, there's really, it was just a very fun, it was a very fun experience. It was very important in my career, in my building my career. And I always felt very, blessed to have had this new community that we kind of grew up together a bit.
Mhm.
And that, they were just happy to have a rabbi. And they came late into the process. That's why they didn't have anyone. And that HUC, the seminary, really extended their rules because I wasn't technically um signed up as a student that year.
Yeah,
So everything kind of matched, which was really lovely.
that's great.
Yeah. And I was doing a lot of other work, I had 3 jobs then. So,
Wow.
um, and my husband was in graduate school. So that was,
Wow.
and he very rarely came with me because he was writing his thesis for his master's. And so he rarely came with me.
Yeah.
I was working the whole time I was there. So it wasn't like we
Right.
had time to hang out.
Right. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so it's very
Well,
nice. So you are doing a
so
40.
so on for the Yom Kippur study session this year,
Uh-huh.
we are going to do the founding of Congregation Kol Haverim.
Oh, nice.
And so I have gone through boxes and found pictures and read through all the board meeting minutes and the bulletins and been interviewing people. So I've kind of been able to put together, through these bits and pieces. I think probably it was after you left, we got an arc from Ados, Israel, which was the last standing Orthodox synagogue in Hartford, which was very large. But, many of the people moved to the suburbs or left. And so they had this huge arc that we were able to receive. And so there's a whole history of this ark that's very old and some of the Torahs and things like that. So there's just a wonderful history. And then, we were so fortunate to have you and other people who from the very beginning, to be able to really help build the congregation and the synagogue. That's
Well, we did have an arc when I was there, but it wasn't huge.
No, you had an armoire.
Oh, it was an armoire. Oh, that's so
Yes.
funny.
Ron King had found it, and I
Oh,
guess he was an antique type guy, and he said it was
oh,
pink. It was in his basement, and he said, I think this could be our ark, and he, refinished it. And it's now in his living room as a piece of furniture, and he took a picture of it and sent it to me. So I do have that.
so funny. And who was Ron's wife? What was her name?
Janice. I believe her name was Janice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not meet her, and a number of these people that we're talking about I have not met.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's so funny. I mean, that is what's so amazing about Kol Haverim is that like it really was meeting the need of a changing community. So it was an emerging community, and it it did so like everyone had the same vision and everyone gave what they could, gave their skill, their furniture,
yeah,
their
yeah,
home. And to me, like that happened I think within like a summer. And I think they were going to kind of go it alone for that year, but they realized, they applied and it all worked out. If
yeah,
they
yeah,
didn't work out, they would have figured out how to do it alone. but it worked out. So
Yeah.
an emerging Jewish community is really exciting, and people, and people were quite knowledgeable Jewishly. I mean, a lot of people weren't, because these young families really weren't, but that, like, Ed was very knowledgeable. Elaine, wasn't as knowledgeable Jewishly, but she had the go getcha. She had the passion for it, and
Yeah.
she was going to make it happen. And then all these other people kind of added on. And so it was really exciting to be part of this frontier, a new frontier.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
was a new frontier.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the which
Hmm.
denomination to affiliate with.
Yeah. That was a whole thing too, which is a lot of what these emerging Jewish communities is, you have to pay dues, and, they had to pay for I don't know how they got my salary, which was, I don't know what it was. I think $7,000. I don't know what I made, but I remember Cantors used to make $11,000 for their things, and we thought, oh my God, like Cantors made so much more than rabbis at that point in the
Interesting.
process of internships, and so.
Wow. Well, great.
It was very exciting. It was like a new frontier.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your
Sure,
time, and
absolutely.
we will share this with the congregation. And I know there's some people who remember you, who were there at the beginning, who will be thrilled to hear this. So
That's great. Well, good. Well, good luck. And that sounds like an
thank you.
exciting project for you. So
It
thank you
is.
for doing that for them, for all of us.
I am thoroughly enjoying it.
Good,
So
good.
thank you.
You have a nice rest of the day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.